The clatter of silverware against china stopped abruptly as my sister-in-law Amanda made her announcement. "Since I co-signed your mortgage," she declared between sips of our expensive wine, "I've decided I'm moving in next month. The guest room will do nicely." The dining room fell silent. My mother-in-law Barbara's fork paused halfway to her mouth. My father-in-law George suddenly became very interested in his mashed potatoes. But my husband Mark just started laughing. "Honey," he said, turning to me with that gleam in his eye I knew so well, "why don't you show Amanda who really owns First Regional Bank?" I reached for my purse, enjoying the confused look on Amanda's face. "You mean this First Regional Bank?" I asked innocently, sliding my business card across the table. "The one where I'm the majority owner and CEO." Amanda's perfectly made-up face went from smug to shocked as she read the card. Elizabeth Chin, Chief Executive Officer, First Regional Bank Group. The wine glass slipped from her manicured fingers, leaving a red stain on her white designer blouse. But let me back up and explain how we got here. I'm Elizabeth Chin, 38, and I worked my way up through the banking industry the hard way. Started as a teller during college, earned my MBA at night while working full-time, and eventually became the youngest branch manager in First Regional's history. 10 years ago, when the bank's founding family was looking to sell, I put together an investment group and orchestrated a buyout. It wasn't easy, banking is still very much an old boys' club, but I had vision and determination. Now First Regional is one of the most successful regional banks in the state. I met Mark Thompson 4 years ago at a charity gala. He was the event photographer, more interested in capturing genuine moments than schmoozing with the wealthy attendees. His artistic eye and complete disinterest in my banking success intrigued me. Most people, when they find out what I do, immediately start pitching business ideas or asking about loans. I told him on our first date, "You just asked about my favorite breakfast food." Mark grinned. "Well, knowing someone likes blueberry pancakes tells you more about their character than their job title." We fell in love quickly, but decided to keep our relationship private from his family at first. Mark came from a wealthy background, old money, but had chosen to pursue his passion for photography instead of joining the family investment firm. This had created tension, especially with his sister Amanda. "She's always been the perfect one," Mark explained. "Married rich, lives in the right neighborhood, belongs to the right clubs. She can't understand why I'm just a photographer." I understood his reluctance to introduce me as a bank CEO. He wanted his family to know me as a person first, not a business connection. So when we started marriage planning, I was just Elizabeth who works in banking. Amanda, of course, had opinions about everything. A simple bank employee, she sniffed during wedding preparations. "Well, at least she has a steady job, but you really should have a prenup." "Mark, what if she's a gold digger?" We let her think what she wanted. The wedding was beautiful, intimate, and drama-free, mainly because Amanda was in Europe on one of her extended luxury vacations. When we bought our house 6 months ago, she insisted on co-signing the mortgage. "You'll never qualify for a nice neighborhood on a photographer's salary," she declared. "I'm doing you a favor. You'll need my income and credit score." What Amanda didn't know was that we'd already been approved for the mortgage through another bank, but Mark suggested letting her co-sign through First Regional, knowing it might come in handy to have documentation of her involvement later. "My sister likes to meddle," he said. "Better to have everything officially on paper." He was right. Amanda's announcement about moving in was just the latest in her attempts to control her little brother's life. She'd been dropping hints about our house being too big for 2 people and how she needed a change of scene after her 3rd divorce. Now here we were at our housewarming dinner, watching her process the fact that her simple bank employee sister-in-law actually owned the bank holding her mortgage. This is a joke, right?" Amanda stammered, still staring at my business card. "You're just a bank worker. You needed my help to qualify for the mortgage." "Actually," Mark said pleasantly, "we were already approved through Chase. Using First Regional was my idea. I thought having everything documented properly would be helpful if anyone ever tried to claim rights to our property." I pulled out my phone, quickly accessing First Regional's system. "Would you like to see the mortgage application? It's interesting reading, especially the part where you inflated your income and assets on the co-signing documents." Amanda's face went from red to white. Lying on mortgage applications was fraud, and she knew it. I was just trying to help, she whispered. By committing mortgage fraud? I asked mildly. That's an interesting way to help. Shall we discuss the implications of falsifying financial documents to a federally insured bank? Barbara finally found her voice. Surely we can work this out as a family. Amanda meant well. Did she? Mark interrupted. Did she mean well when she tried to talk me out of marrying Elizabeth? When she told everyone I was throwing my life away as a photographer? When she lied on legal documents? You don't understand. Amanda protested. I need somewhere to stay. Stephen is selling the house in the divorce and... So you thought you'd just move into our home without asking? I kept my voice calm. Based on a mortgage application you fraudulently co-signed. The reality of her situation finally seemed to hit Amanda. Please, she said quietly, don't report the fraud. It would ruin me. I shared a look with Mark before responding. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign documents removing yourself from our mortgage, documents I already have prepared. You're going to stop interfering in our lives. And you're going to get some therapy to deal with whatever makes you need to control everything. And if I don't? A flash of the old Amanda emerged. Then I'll have no choice but to report the mortgage fraud. I said simply, as CEO, I have a fiduciary duty to the bank, not to mention federal reporting requirements. George, who had been quiet until now, cleared his throat. Amanda, take the deal. Elizabeth is being more than fair. Amanda looked around the table, realizing she had no allies in this fight. Fine, she said stiffly. I'll sign whatever you want, but I still think. No, Mark cut her off. You don't get to think anything about our lives anymore. That's the point. I retrieved the papers from my home office, I'd had them prepared just in case, and watched as Amanda signed away her supposed claim to our home. Her hands shook slightly, but her signature was clear. Congratulations, I said, tucking the documents into my briefcase. You're no longer fraudulently connected to our mortgage. Would anyone like dessert? The aftermath of that dinner was both better and worse than we expected. Amanda, humbled by the exposure of her fraud and the realization that I wasn't the simple bank worker she'd assumed, retreated to a luxury spa to process her trauma. Barbara and George, however, had some serious conversations with Mark about their past treatment of his career choices. We should have supported your photography, Barbara admitted during a follow-up dinner, especially seeing how successful you've become. We had different expectations. Like Amanda's expectations about controlling my life, Mark asked pointedly. We enabled her behavior, George acknowledged, always making excuses, always letting her meddle. It wasn't fair to you. The family dynamics shifted after that night. Amanda's attempts to manipulate situations were met with firm boundaries from her parents. Her financial power plays lost their impact once everyone knew she'd been caught in mortgage fraud. Mark's photography career continued to flourish. He'd built a reputation for capturing genuine emotions in his images, particularly at weddings and other family events. The irony of documenting happy families while dealing with his own family drama wasn't lost on him. Maybe that's why I'm good at it, he mused one evening. I know what real emotions look like versus performed ones. I continued leading First Regional with the same principles that had guided my career: integrity, transparency, and attention to detail. The fact that those principles had helped expose Amanda's schemes was a satisfying bonus. We did hear through family channels that Amanda had taken my advice about therapy. Her new therapist apparently suggested that her need to control others stemmed from her own insecurities about wealth and status. She's actually doing the work, Barbara reported, sounding surprised. The therapist said confronting her behavior with clear evidence was a wake-up call. 6 months after the dinner incident, Amanda sent us a letter. Not an email or text, but a handwritten letter of apology. I've been examining my actions in therapy, she wrote. My need to control Mark's life, my judgment of his choices, my assumption that money equals worth, it all comes from my own fears. I'm sorry for trying to manipulate my way into your home and for lying on the mortgage documents. You were right to stop me. Mark read the letter several times before responding. It seems genuine, he said finally. Different from her usual manipulative apologies. We decided to meet Amanda for coffee, on neutral ground, to discuss moving forward. She arrived on time. dressed simply rather than in her usual designer outfit. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she said immediately. "I just want you to know I'm working on myself. The mortgage fraud was a wake-up call. I could have ruined my life trying to control yours." "Why did you do it?" I asked. "The fraud. I mean, you must have known it was risky." Amanda sighed. "Honestly, I was desperate. My third divorce was destroying my image of perfect success. I thought if I could move in with you, I could pretend it was my choice to help my brother rather than admit my life was falling apart." Her honesty was refreshing. We didn't become best friends after that conversation, but we did establish a healthier relationship based on truth rather than manipulation. The experience changed how First Regional handled mortgage applications too. I implemented stricter verification procedures for co-signers, knowing firsthand how family dynamics could lead to fraud attempts. "Your sister-in-law tried to move in with you," other bank CEOs would ask when I shared the story at industry events. "What did you do?" "Used proper documentation and clear boundaries," I'd reply. "Works in banking and in family relations." Mark's photography business expanded to include corporate work, including campaigns for First Regional. His artistic eye and ability to capture authentic moments made our marketing materials stand out in the usually stiff banking industry. "From being judged for my career to having my work displayed in bank branches," he joked, "life is full of surprises." Amanda eventually bought her own small condo, with a properly documented mortgage from another bank. She sent us a copy of the approval letter with a note, "Did it right this time. No fraud needed." Our house became a true home, free from the shadow of Amanda's attempted takeover. We hosted family dinners where conversations were genuine rather than performances of status and success. Barbara and George, seeing how their enabling of Amanda had affected the family, made efforts to treat their children's choices with equal respect. They even hung some of Mark's photographs in their formal living room alongside the traditional family portraits. The business card that shocked Amanda that night sits framed in my office, a reminder that sometimes the best way to handle manipulation is with calm revelation of truth. Next to it is one of Mark's photographs, a candid shot of me at my desk, completely absorbed in work. "That's my favorite image of you," he told me. The powerful CEO who uses her position to protect what matters, not to dominate others. First Regional continued to grow under my leadership, but with a deeper understanding of how family dynamics can impact financial decisions. We developed special training for loan officers about recognizing signs of manipulation or fraud in family co-signing situations. Amanda's attempted move-in became a teaching moment in more ways than one. She learned about boundaries and consequences. Her parents learned about enabling behavior. Mark felt validated in his career choices, and I learned that sometimes being underestimated can work to your advantage. During last year's holiday gathering, a more relaxed affair than previous years, Amanda actually made jokes about her past behavior. "Remember when I thought I could just declare myself your roommate?" she said, shaking her head. "Thank goodness you had that business card ready. Thank goodness you had the capacity to learn from it," I replied. Our story became part of family lore, retold at gatherings with varying degrees of embellishment. The lesson remained consistent: authenticity trumps manipulation, and true success isn't about controlling others. Mark and I recently celebrated our anniversary by hosting a family dinner in our house, where we alone decide who lives. Amanda came with her new boyfriend, a high school art teacher who seems to genuinely appreciate both her reformed attitude and Mark's photography. "Nice to meet someone who values creativity," Mark said, showing him his studio. "Nice to be valued for myself rather than my financial status," the boyfriend replied, with a knowing look at Amanda. She blushed but didn't defend her past behavior. Progress comes in many forms. The mortgage papers Amanda signed that night are secured in our bank vault, though we've never needed to reference them. Her therapy and self-reflection proved more effective than any legal threat. First Regional success continues to grow, built on the same principles that helped me handle Amanda's scheme: transparency, integrity, and clear documentation. My business card still opens doors, but now it's known for representing ethical banking rather than just authority. Mark's photography studio takes up the space that would have been Amanda's bedroom. The irony isn't lost on any of us. Where she once tried to insert herself into our lives, art and creativity now flourish. Our home remains our sanctuary, strengthened by the boundaries we established that night. The wine stain on the dining room chair, from Amanda's dropped glass, has faded to a barely visible mark, like the memory of her attempted takeover. Family gatherings are different now, less about performance and status, more about genuine connection. Even Amanda seems more relaxed, having let go of her need to control everything and everyone. The lesson wasn't just about property rights or banking authority, it was about the power of standing firm in your truth, about facing manipulation with facts rather than drama. Every so often, someone at First Regional will ask about the CEO who caught her sister-in-law committing mortgage fraud. I always tell them the same thing: the real story isn't about catching fraud, it's about helping someone choose a better path. Because sometimes the biggest power move isn't in wielding authority, it's in using that authority to create positive change, even if it starts with a business card and a shocked sister-in-law.